to chew on. The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Pleasant good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International for Monday. It's a brand new month of June. It's the 3rd of June, 2024. This is program number 1186 of the Lunchroom, and I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, in addition to radio on 101.1 FM, you can also get us at our website. It is rcistlucia.com, rcistlucia.com. You can download our older shows on that platform as well. And you can get us on Facebook. The page is the official page of Radio Caribbean International. We are streaming live there. So please like and share that link as well with your friends and family, wherever they may be in the world. If you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate, the local number is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And that is, of course, 758-724-0008. That's our WhatsApp number. You can message us or call in to send in your questions and comments. And again, 758-724-0008. Now, today, some birthday greetings going out to Mr. Thaddeus Antoine. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we do hope that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. Hope you're enjoying it. And also sending birthday greetings to Dr. Vasantha Chase. Happy birthday to you, and we're hoping that you're having a wonderful and blessed birthday celebration. And also to the Speaker of the House of Assembly in St. Lucia, Mr. Claudius Francis. He's celebrating his birthday as well today, and we wish him the very best on his very special birthday. Happy birthday to you, sir. Now, a bit of history on this day. In the year 1621, the Dutch West India Company received its charter for the West Indies, which included the Americas, the Caribbean, and West Africa. In the year 1929, Chile and Peru signed the Treaty of Lima, finally resolving their border dispute from the War of the Pacific, which happened between 1879 and 1883. And it meant that Chile kept Arica and Peru regained the territory of Tacna. In the year 1979, on this day, the Ixtoc 1 rig in the Gulf of Mexico blew, spilling 3 million barrels of oil in one of the worst oil spills in history. And in 1989, on this day, the beginning of the Tiananmen Square massacre, as Chinese troops opened fire on pro-democracy supporters in Beijing. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Did all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also glass, glassware, and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome to our program for today. And of course, again, a brand new month as we're into June, the 6th month of the year. We do hope that everybody's having a good start of that. Now, of course, last week we did make mention of some elections that are happening. And of course, very early on in the year, we did point out that the world is in fact seeing one of its biggest years for the democratic process, and that of elections in many, many countries around the world. Of course, the world's most populous country, that of India, with over 1.4 billion people. They are still going through their process, which takes quite a while. And of course, that is what you expect when you have over 900 million people having to go out to cast their ballots. And as well, another one of these up-and-coming countries within the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And South Africa being an African country that was recognized as one of the emerging markets of the world, and certainly a long-standing history of challenges in that country due to discrimination and apartheid. And since the 1990s and the election of Nelson Mandela to become the first black president of South Africa, that country has been led by the African National Congress, that movement which led the country to the end of apartheid and the creation of what has been known as a rainbow state. A lot of effort went into creating a good balance in terms of South Africa and its how to move forward for the past. Looking forward, of course, for the next period, in the post-apartheid period. But of course, an excellent constitution, sometimes recognized as one of the best in the world, and their system of democracy still operating there. But that country has been faced with a significant number of challenges coming out of apartheid. Of course, the need to rebalance, the need to provide a lot of services and wealth and support to the population that had in fact been suppressed for such a long time, was certainly one of the significant mandates of the African National Congress, the ANC. And they've been doing that for the past 30 years, but they have certainly come with, they have certainly been met with significant challenges. And of course, that party has lost the favor of the majority support of the South African population in that 29th of May general election, which saw an incumbent Cyril Ramaphosa trying to get another term. And as president, the way their system works, they actually have a parliamentary system, and that the parliament, the house of the lower house, which is National Assembly, made up of about 400, in fact, exactly 400 members of parliament, MPs. They in fact have to elect the president. That's a system that they have. It's not a direct election of president as in many parts of the world, and so they would have needed a majority to be able to do that. An outright majority would have been 201, and they came out with about 40% of the vote, with about 159 seats going to the ANC. It therefore means that they will have to form a coalition government for the first time in the democratic history of South Africa as a result of this hung parliament. And of course, we do know that it's not going to be smooth sailing as a result of that, because South Africa has quite a number of parties, and it has the official opposition, the Democratic Alliance. That party has tended to be most popular in the Western Cape, which is the southwestern province of South Africa. Of course, where you've got Cape Town and where you've got a fair mix in terms of the ethnicities there as well. They've been most popular there. And in fact, they have actually been able to make inroads into other parts of South Africa as well, including the region around Johannesburg and Pretoria, the Gauteng province, and picking up some seats in that province as well. The DA is in fact going to be receiving 87 of the 400 seats, and the former president, former head of the ANC, he of course has a criminal record, was convicted, and in fact just days before the election, the courts in South Africa ruled that he in fact could not contest the election. His name was still on the ballot, and his party in fact has picked up 58 seats of the 400 seats. And we speak of former President Jacob Zuma and his party MK. The other major party is a very left-leaning, sometimes seen almost a bit aggressive party, that of the Economic Freedom Fighters. And they have been, they're led by a gentleman by the name of Julius Malema. He and his party are very much for a continuation of policies that would empower black South Africans. They're also in favor of taking on or expropriating land from white farmers in South Africa without compensation. It's a major issue there. And of course, you would note north of South Africa is Zimbabwe, and they had a significant hard time with respect to that. And Robert Mugabe during the late 1990s, 2000s, when that attempt was made in the case of Zimbabwe. And there are calls for expropriation of property to rebalance the rural sector for the benefit of black South Africans. The big question, of course, is the way forward for the ANC. They're going to have to form a coalition. And in addition to those parties, there are quite a number of others out there who could potentially come into the mix. Some of them perhaps parties they would not want to be dealing with, like the VF Plus of Peter Grunewald. But there are many others who still do have some possibilities. So that is a big question, whether the ANC in fact gets into an alliance with the Democratic Alliance, or whether they will in fact go the route of MK or EFF. In the case of MK, there is quite a lot of animosity between Mr. Zuma and Mr. Ramaphosa. It is in fact one of the requests or requirements of MK that Cyril Ramaphosa would not be the next president of South Africa. And so then, of course, the big question is whether, in fact, the ANC would in any way be entertaining that in the interest of forming a government. The Democratic Alliance has been more pro-Western. They've been not interested in keeping on with a number of these policies in terms of special treatment for the black population. They are hoping for a more pro-capitalist approach in dealing with issues, and it'll be perhaps the ask for external forces and the West. Maybe they may actually want to see an alliance with the Democratic Alliance, but it is perhaps unlikely. And so it then means that if that is the case, the chances are the ANC is likely to end up in a situation where they would have to be getting those additional those additional seats to form a government from the EFF of Mr. Malema. And that would certainly bring them across, actually won't actually as yet completely bring them across the line, because the EFF got 39 seats, and that still would not be quite sufficient to form that majority, and certainly not a comfortable majority. And so then that's where the question is in terms of the other parties in the mix, whether they in fact can then become kingmakers in those sort of situations. So you then may have a party that may just hold 6 seats, like Action SA, headed by Mr. Herman Mashaba, entrepreneur, and could he perhaps end up being thrown into a power, a very important brokerage situation there, where he could actually assist in forming a government. So very, very interesting period ahead for South Africa. It is a country that has been faced with significant challenges, including that of crime. It has major issues in terms of energy right now, lots of load shedding going on due to the lack of capacity. It has tremendous challenges in terms of keeping up in terms of its economic growth and encouraging investment. It is a country that is tremendously rich in terms of its minerals. Of course, it's been one of the world's largest producers of diamonds, as well as gold. It, in fact, at one point was producing as much as 900 tons of gold a year. But those numbers have come down, and it has not seen the kind of buoyancy over the past couple of years. And that certainly has placed tremendous pressure in terms of how to ensure the matter of creating more jobs for South Africa is going to continue. Of course, it's also a country that has, although it has made lots and lots of progress in terms of housing and healthcare and education, and that's been one of the areas where the ANC has been pushing for a universal healthcare program. The Democratic Alliance, the opposition, has said that the country simply can't afford it, and that's one of the major issues, no doubt, in terms of forming a government that would certainly be coming on the table in terms of how to move forward on some of these major policy areas. Of course, South Africa is also one of the largest economies in Africa. No longer is it the number one. It, in fact, has been surpassed by Nigeria, which expects to be somewhere about $500 billion US dollars in terms of its GDP in 2024. But still seen as a significant player, certainly still is the largest economy in Southern Africa. And we will, of course, continue to see it as being a very important factor and player in the general development of Africa moving forward. It is, in fact, one of those parts of Africa that has been able to industrialize. A lot of stuff was done in terms of even the apartheid period, certainly, in terms of infrastructure, and even at one point in time, it actually had nuclear power and was running its own nuclear power plants. But of course, keeping that going, maintaining the state, is going to be a major challenge. And the big issue that has been brought forward in terms of the South African government has been that of corruption. The ANC has been labeled in very many ways as being corrupt, and that certainly did not help them, on top of course, not being able to sufficiently get its hands around the many, many challenges that they were in fact being faced with. A bit closer to home, and a country that we in fact have diplomatic relations with, that of Mexico. And they in fact went to the polls yesterday, And for the first time in history, they in fact elected a woman to be president of Mexico. And she is Claudia Sheinbaum. She's in fact the not only is the first woman, but she's actually the first person of Jewish descent to be elected in Mexico, a country that is predominantly Catholic. And she, in fact, is a member of the left-wing party, the party of the former president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. And, of course, she was the one who he supported going into this presidential election. In the case of Mexico, they only allow their presidents to serve one term of 6 years. And so, in fact, she will be taking up that term. She'll assume office on the 1st of October. And, of course, she leads that party, Morena, which is generally seen to be left-leaning. She is a climate scientist by profession, her PhD in energy engineering from the National Autonomous University of Mexico. She's an academic. She's authored over 100 articles and, in fact, 2 books on energy, on the environment, on sustainable development. She's even contributed to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And in the year 2018, she was listed as one of the BBC's 100 women. So certainly it's a big deal for her to be elected as president of Mexico, certainly the most populous country in Central America, if you want to consider it a part of Central America, and certainly a very, very important player in Latin American affairs. Mexico has supported St. Lucia in a number of different areas over the years, including things like water, and so certainly their support in conservation as well. And so her coming to the table, certainly with her background, it would be very interesting to see how the policies of the government that she leads moves forward. In the case of Mr. Obrador, he was certainly looking to expand the Mexican economy, and he's been able to do that, certainly. But there have been instances where you've got some pushback in terms of even things like a railway line into the Yucatan. The train Maya did cause some concerns from environmentalists and indigenous peoples there. And so it will be interesting to see whether she can, in fact, find that balance, given, of course, her experience and articulation on matters regarding sustainable development. So congratulations, of course, to the people of Mexico and the election of their first woman president, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo. That's our dish of the day. And when we come back, we'll first take in our weather report and then head back to taking some calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. There's all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Island style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive. In Island style. We
ground. Everything you need, is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's of course on the 1.1. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath. The forecast for Solution valid for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east and east-southeast near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour with gusts near showers. The weather generally cloudy skies with scattered showers which may be heavy in some locations and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. The raising vibes in here which reads residents and motorists in areas prone to landslides and flooding are advised to exercise caution. The forecast for the Lesser Antilles, partly cloudy to cloudy at times with scattered showers which may be heavy in some locations and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. And the tropical weather outlook, lingering moisture and instability in the atmosphere over the Windward Islands will result in scattered showers over these islands during the forecast period. Meanwhile, an approaching tropical wave located a few hundred miles east of the Windward Islands is moving westward near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. This system is expected to begin affecting the southern Windward Islands late tonight. Another tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 20 miles per hour or 31 kilometers per hour. A third tropical wave over the far eastern tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. Tropical cyclone formation is not expected over the tropical Atlantic during the next 7 days. And this was your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island Style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island Style.
We have tiles and thin sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need, is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 4523046. We'll go to the phone lines at this time to take in some calls. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hello?
Hello.
Hi, yes, sorry about that call. I wasn't hearing you.
George,
How are you doing?
I wasn't well. I was a bit poorly. That's
Oh.
why you're not hearing me.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're better.
But I getting better.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
Good. Yeah. Now, what I call you about is the transport in. I have some of my family here, and they're taking the transport because to go to the beach, and it takes them something like 2 hours before they can come back home in the evening.
Wow.
Let me put Teresa. You on radio?
Hello.
Hi, good day. How are you
Hello,
doing?
good day to you.
Wonderful, and I understand you're visiting St. Lucia?
Yes, and it's my first time.
Your
Been
first
on
time?
Teams since I was a little girl.
Oh, well, welcome. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming. And how's your stay going so far?
Do you know what? The state is beautiful apart from the transport.
Mm-hmm.
As you can tell, we drive, but here I couldn't drive because it's too fast.
Okay.
But I think if the government and everyone invested in a little bit more bigger buses, it might save a lot of things for people that visit St. Lucia.
Mm-hmm. And especially getting to the beach, I understand you're having some
Beach
challenges?
everywhere.
Everywhere.
You know, shopping, getting a little bit in the supermarket.
Mhm.
Waiting for the buses is definitely, they need to invest in a little bit more.
Right.
But it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's absolutely, everyone's friendly. But it's just the transport.
Yes, and I can well imagine sometimes, especially if are you coming from London in particular?
I'm coming from London.
Okay, so certainly, I guess you'd be spoilt in London with the very,
yeah, we have
very
been
good
spoiled
system.
in London. We
yeah,
have.
yeah.
Yeah, I do get that, and I do understand it out here. But if a lot of people invested in a little bit more bigger buses,
Yes.
just a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for that contribution. Certainly.
Oh, you're amazing, and thank you.
Okay, take care and all the best.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And certainly the matter of public transport is a really important one. We have spoken on this on many occasions, but it really does matter, and for everybody, really, not only persons who are resident here, but of course even visitors as well who may want to get around. It is certainly going to be really important. And of course, even when you look at the taxi sector, in many parts of the world, the taxi sector has come under tremendous pressure, and that is because of things like Uber and these other providers of short trips, vehicles, like, as the case may be. That has certainly changed the way that people get around in lots of parts of the world. We have not gotten there yet, although there was one platform, I do believe, young entrepreneur, or entrepreneurs, I should say, from St. Lucia, and that of Ale. And that idea, of course, is a similar one, an Uber type or Lyft type platform for getting people around. And it really is about leveraging technology, the software to be able to support it, and of course with GPS, it certainly can make moving around a lot easier. There are also these other services that some places have tried to introduce, and they're called microtransit. So it's again another ride-sharing arrangement where you might be sharing a minivan to get around, and some municipalities have in fact also introduced them as part of the offerings for public transport. The level of success it differs, and one of the major issues, of course, that you've got to face when you're dealing with the matter of public transport is that of the network, the infrastructure that supports it, as well as the density of the development. And so in very dense areas, you will tend to be able to justify having a bus route because you got lots of people who will utilize that. And of course, European cities in particular have been very good at providing public transport because they've got very dense cities, as opposed to the American, North American or Australian models where things have been very, very spread out, sprawling, suburban type arrangements. And they're trying too in the United States and Canada, but in terms of the frequency of service, they still have a ways to go. Merely because it's just not as affordable. And so the whole issue of transport is certainly very much tied to planning, your urban planning. And so it's one of the, this is of course why, if you look at the the most reliable route that we actually have on the island, I would probably say, is that of the 1A Castries to Grosley line, because you've got a high density of a population which is close to that route, and so therefore there's a pretty good service in that regard. But once you move beyond that now, of course, it begins to be a lot more challenging, and so the Castries to Morshy route is perhaps not going to be as reliable, or it wouldn't provide as much service, because you've got lower densities, smaller populations to deal with in those areas. And of course, the other issue that we have is that we still have a system that is very Castries-centric. It's a sort of a unipolar system that we're running. All the buses, for the most part, are terminating in Castries, and so we don't have too many circular routes. And the challenge, of course, of doing these sort of circular routes comes back to the issue of the road network. You've got many instances where the roads largely terminate. You've got usually these very long one way in, one way out type arrangements, and so it become these linear routes become more difficult to service in these instances. So you could think of a place, just for argument's sake, you've got one route that in the Babuno area, you'll have one route that goes into the Fort Wassaw Shasta area, then you have another one that is going into the Gara area, and then another one that's going into the Bogis area, but they don't really connect lower down in the Marquis Valley. So it then means that you can't really do circular routes very well, because you've got a lot of these sort of dead ends in the case of St. Lucia, which is not very useful when it comes to providing transit services. So it is certainly something that we've got to be thinking about, both in terms of the actual service and the quality of the service, and of course, as the caller was mentioning, the matter of the sizes of buses. That is becoming a major concern, certainly on the 1A route, where we're seeing lots of traffic, and we don't have any segregation, of course, so we don't have bus lanes or anything like that. So the buses are using the very same routes to run their service, right? They're going on the same Julian Hunt Highway. It then means, when you have those types of situations, that they are at the mercy of the very same traffic. And quite often, a lot of these buses are going to get stuck in traffic. And so at peak hour, when you need the buses the most, of course, a lot of them are simply stuck in traffic. And so, of course, it becomes a major issue where you're seeing significant numbers of people at many of these stops, like the Rodney Bay stop and the Grosley stop and Shock. And you'll find that you're getting a lot of people waiting for very long periods of time trying to get in and out. And of course, we also have not really done very much in terms of trying to provide connections for visitors per se. And so if you can just well imagine if somebody is trying to get to Pigeon Island, or they're trying to get down to the ramp to get to the beach. The ramp is not too bad in terms of the distance, walking distance to the nearest bus stop, but certainly Pigeon Island is. And so these types of arrangements are part of the challenge in terms of providing a better service. And believe it or not, there are a lot of visitors who will want to be able to use the public transport system wherever they go. We are very much accustomed, if we're going to New York, or you're going to London, or you're going to Toronto, or you're going to Paris, to use the public transport system. And the vast majority of a lot of people are using it invariably in any case. And so if you're a visitor, chances are you probably will want to use the public transport system. It's perhaps not going to be always the case where an individual is going to be looking to rent a vehicle, and even the issue of rentals is another challenging one in our case. And that, of course, is the harrowing nature of our road network. We certainly have a very, you can have a very spirited experience driving in St. Lucia. The roads are narrow, they're windy, they can be certainly very challenging in terms of the average speed that a person drives on them. Could make for somebody to be feeling a little bit uncomfortable, especially if you're not accustomed to it. And of course, with the absence of things like addressing systems and street signage, that makes it even more complex. I would challenge anybody to perhaps use the Google Maps system and to try to see how accurate it is. To be able to move around, and invariably I will tell you that you probably will get lost if you were to follow using the directions or using Google Maps or one of those Waze platforms or whatnot. And that is because the information that is being used by Google Maps is really just information that they're sourcing from existing platforms. So if your streets are not named, it's going to come up as unnamed street. And so that then just doesn't really help the overall situation. It could probably tell you how to get from here to there, yes, but then if you were to follow the directions, that's where it becomes pretty messy. And sometimes they show connections where there are in fact no connections as well, or because they pick up a road, but the road is in fact not a paved road, it's an unpaved road, and so it can become pretty confusing when you are to use that service. So definitely it is a matter that is of import when it comes to the issue of our public transit system here. There was a study that was done not too long ago. I think it's not too sure if it's even completed as yet, being done through the Ministry of Infrastructure and Transport, looking at what was termed sustainable road transport, and making some recommendations regarding improvements of our road network. And I think it hopefully is something that we'll have to definitely like to see what that looks like, and to perhaps see what the recommendations are. Quite likely some of them will involve recommendations that were just made, like potentially on certain routes having express services, or also trying to increase the size of the buses that run on certain routes. I think it's fair to say that on the Castries to Grosley route, we should be transitioning to larger buses. I think it's the volume is there. It is justifiable that we should probably be looking at 30-seater buses by now, or even some maybe even larger than that on that route to be able to improve the serviceability of along that route. But of course, doing that would require a partnership with the owners of the buses, the persons who have these route bands, to be able to transition towards that. The other major area that we certainly do need to be looking at is greening our public transport system. And we've seen in the Caribbean, some countries have in fact taken that step, and they've done so pretty successfully. In the case of Barbados, they made an investment of over 100 electric buses, which are already operating on the roads of Barbados. And of course, I know some people will be saying, well, Barbados is flat and it's not so difficult. And but you could potentially pilot it on certain routes, and certainly the Castries Grosley route is not a very long route, and it's not a very hilly route either. And so you could in fact potentially achieve maybe the greening of a particular route, like the Castries Grosley route, given, of course, its high volumes and the distance and, in terms of charging stations, that could potentially be worked out, given what you're dealing with there. It's an urban route for all intents and purposes. And so it is certainly a move that we should be thinking about. In the case of Barbados, in fact, I think they're even going to order some additional electric buses. So very good for them in that regard. Of course, I know as well that it's a little different because the Barbados actually has a public transport board. So they've got a mixed system where they've got private as well as public. And so they can do certain things. But we certainly do need to be thinking about, maybe the time is ripe to have a sort of a mixed system as well in the case of St. Lucia. In Jamaica as well, they're going that route. And they're also piloting the use of electric buses. And so that, again, is something certainly to be thinking about when we're speaking about public transport. The other major one, which we sort of mentioned, is that of the potential to have dedicated transit ways. That is also something that we're going to have to be talking about if we're thinking long term. And it certainly does help if your buses, in fact, can have dedicated routes for them. We saw that in action, I guess it was forced to happen, really, in the case of the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival and providing the shuttle services in that area. But the way we're going, as it is right now, in terms of the number of cars that are continuously, I guess you could almost say, being dumped onto St. Lucia. You've got countries around the world, like Singapore, for instance, their fleet's changing every 5 years. And a lot of those vehicles are becoming second-hand vehicles or third-hand vehicles in countries around and developing countries around the world, like St. Lucia, like Africa, and of course it's posing a tremendous challenge when it comes to our road network and moving around. And so that as well, I think, is certainly something that we've got to be thinking of in terms of how can we actually get more people to utilize the public transit system. And it would mean that you've got to have a system that is reliable. It would mean that you've got to have a system that is actually faster than the option of taking your vehicle and making that trip, right? It means that it has to be, of course, cost effective. And the reality is that in many instances, these services very well potentially have to be subsidized in some form or fashion. And the subsidy may come from tolls, or the subsidy may come from a fuel tax, but that is sometimes what is used, or maybe or even a higher tariff on vehicle importation, so as to support public transport, because it really is not efficient when you think about it. You're dealing with an internal combustion engine that is already not a very efficient user of the energy that is available. There's a whole concept of what is called rejected energy, right? Energy that is actually just wasted. And especially when you look at the transport sector, an internal combustion engine that we're running around there is usually about 20 to 30% efficient. So the vast majority of the energy that is going into getting us from A to B is not really going towards actually moving us from A to B. It's being lost through heat and noise and what have you. And so really, and friction. And so all of that is not really, it's not really good. And so we've got to be able to find more efficient ways to be able to move around. And it certainly doesn't help if we're moving around just one person in a vehicle. And of course, this is why some countries have high occupancy vehicle lanes to try to encourage people to carpool and to ride share. All of that is actually helping in terms of the overall energy use of the country and thinking about our overall energy footprint. So all of these principles are important. We just came out of a Small Island Developing States Conference over in Antigua and Barbuda. Leaders of Small Island Developing States have been clamoring for, climate change issues and trying to make that moral argument that although we're the main polluters, we're the ones who are suffering because of sea level rise and increased intensity of storms and hurricanes and the impacts that is having, desertification in other parts of the world, and you name it, and we're the victims in all of this. But perhaps there are things that we ourselves can and should be taking on in terms of being models when it comes to that fight against climate change and getting a greener path. And so certainly that, I think, is also going to be very important if we are to make that moral argument and justify it. And there are resources out there. We've been hearing about things like the Green Climate Fund, for instance, that is aiming at actually trying to provide the kind of investment into technologies and infrastructure and equipment that can help make that transition. So it has to be part of that overall development model moving forward. Now, just very quickly, tomorrow we're going to have a guest in studio, I do hope, in the person of Dr. David Williams, a Harvard professor, and he's here for the Caribbean Studies Association Conference. That 2024 conference is happening right here in St. Lucia. It started today, and it's on for the entire week up at the Harbor Club. And today, this morning, was the welcome session. There was a plenary early on about development cooperation in the Caribbean, innovation, technology, integration, and growth. And this afternoon, from 4:30, there's Land, Skies, and Seas, an open discussion on ecological crises, climate action, and Caribbean futures. That's on from 4:30 this afternoon at the Harbor Club in Rodney Bay. And there's also going to be from 6 o'clock a screening of the film Shantae's World. Now, of course, that's done by a St. Lucian. It's a St. Lucian production, film production. So you may want to actually check that out if you've got the time this afternoon. Tomorrow continues. There's another plenary session in the afternoon. It's called People, Partnership, Peace, and Prosperity, the role of women in facilitating diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Caribbean. And also a panel on rethinking investment, economic development, and sustainable growth in the Caribbean region. And a roundtable will follow that, finding support through the next level. So it's some very interesting stuff going on. It is a 5-day conference. It's happening, it goes up until this Friday, I believe. And we do hope that those who are interested in this can participate. It's the Caribbean Studies Association Conference for 2024, and it's happening right here in St. Lucia. And the partners here, University of the West Indies, as well as the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. It's actually the 50th anniversary of the Caribbean Studies Association. So we do hope that they have a good session, and we perhaps hope that you can also be a part of that. That's all the program we have for you today. That's the end of our program, and we do hope that you'll be able to join us tomorrow for that interview. And we'll be back again. Your host, Calix George Jr., saying goodbye.